Welcome to another edition of How to Fix It Yourself with Dave and Dave. Today we're working on the 2001 Pathfinder. We've done a number of videos with the Pathfinder. The brakes have been sounding weird on the back, and they don't sound like a normal worn out brake. And so I'm concerned about what's really going on in there. Years and years ago, it developed a seal leak around the axle that goes to the passenger side, the right side of the vehicle. So I've just pulled the cap off, and sure enough, you can see in there that it looks kind of gummy and like it's had some kind of oil in there that's gotten hot and kind of messed things up in there. So I think we've got an axle leak problem again, but we're going to go ahead and pull the wheel and take a look at it, and then we'll decide whether or not we'll pull that axle and replace the seal, or whether we're going to take it somewhere else to have them pull the axle, if that's what it really is. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got the car jacked up. I'm going to pull the wheel and then put the jack stands underneath the axle where it's a little easier to get there. And because we're not going to be underneath the car, I don't need to have the jack stands on quite yet. But as always, whenever you're really working on the car with it up in the air, you really want to have jack stands and chocks on your car. All right, let's go ahead and pull this wheel and pull off the hub. Now on the Pathfinder, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but up until like 2004, I think it was, that they used drum brakes on the back instead of disc brakes. So clearly if it was disc brakes, it would be an easier job. Drum brakes are kind of going out of fashion, so we'll go ahead and replace the drum brakes at some point, just because it's something that's kind of going out of style these days, and a lot of people don't know how to do those. So here we go. So it takes a 21mm socket to take it off. So we're just going to go ahead and pound those off of there. I find these DeWalt battery impact wrenches to be quite good, and saves a lot of hassle with dragging pneumatic hoses all over the place. So all right. So the reason why I kind of think this has got a leak to it is this is still pretty gummy here, but this isn't a leak that would come from the brake fluid, because the brake fluid levels is not decreasing in the engine compartment there by the where you have your brake reservoir. So that's why I think it might be the axle grease. So at this point, before we go any further, I'm going to get the jack stand underneath this axle, and then we'll go ahead and pull this off of here, and we'll go from there. All right, so there's a couple of ways of taking this off. I'm just going to try and wiggle it off, and that works a lot of the time. They do have some bolt holes here and here. The idea is that you can use these to go into a plate on the inside and pry the thing off. So let's see how lucky I am. Yep, I'm going to get it off. But that's what these two holes are for. It's a little hard to see, so you'll see that right here it's greasy. You can see the grease buildup on it, and yet on the inside here there's no grease. And so the oil is flowing out to the backside of this flange. It's being slung off of this guy here, and it's going to the inside of the drum. And you can see the oil right there that's building up on the inside, and it's kind of polishing this area here, but this area out here seems to be grabbing okay. So that's why the brakes are kind of working, but they're also kind of making some weird noises. again, along with some of the diagnostics we're doing here, another point to note is that the brake pad itself has plenty of meat on it, on both the front edge and on the back side. So the whole problem with this particular brake has to be something to do with oil or grease or something, and that's why I'm convinced that we've got a leaky cylinder on our axle. So you can see that we're not down on the brake pad. The brake pad has plenty of life left in it, but because it's been impregnated with grease and oil, you know, those brake pads are no good at this point. So at some point we're going to have to replace the brake pads and that itself. I don't know if the hub needs to be machined or whether it's already machined out as far as it'll go. That's something that we'll have to measure as we get further in. But the first thing we've got to take care of is this axle and make sure it's taken care of. So at this point, it's pretty easy to determine that we're not leaking out of the master brake cylinder here on the brake itself, the brake cylinder, that there's no oil or anything around there that doesn't look like it's axle grease that's on there. So we've got an axle problem at this point. So now the question is whether we're going to go ahead and try and replace the axle ourselves, or whether we're going to take it in and have a shop do it. Just for a history point, I have had trouble with this axle before, but it was years and years ago, like maybe 15 years ago. I'd had the vehicle maybe 5-6 years, and the same sort of thing happened. The seals on this side gave way, and we had the same exact problem. The dealer at that time, because it was still partially under warranty, had to replace the axle 3 times before they got it right. So this isn't necessarily a trivial item, and that's why I'm not sure that I want to tackle it directly, because you have to get into the whole axle assembly and pull the whole thing out, and that's a bit of a chore to get all that done. So we've now done the diagnostics on it. We're going to go take and do a little research in the I've got the factory repair manual for this car. Take a look and see what they say about pulling the axle, and then I'll see if we want to just take it into one of the local mechanics to have them take care of it.